Tonight I'm going to have a look at this Hacker Herald RP30. Not in bad condition, it's missing a handle, and I don't think the white grill on the back is the original one. But it's in fairly good nick actually. There's a few sort of minor scratches I don't know if you can see on the dial here, but the rest of it's in pretty good condition. It's got the old BBC markings that you could buy. I think they used to supply them with the Radio Times when they shifted all the frequencies around. They supplied you with these stick-on labels, and I can remember them being stuck onto radios at home when I was a kid. So they'll need to be cleaned off and stripped back. As I say, the back needs sort of a bit of a clean up as well. If I'm going to use this white grill, I will try and find a black grill. There's a black grill. Oh no, it's the wrong one. I think I've got a black grill for one of these somewhere, but it'd be nice to replace that. Inside's in pretty nice nick. The hinges got no rust on it, which is quite unusual for one of these Hackers. They tend to get rusty where the battery leaks. Causes a bit of corrosion inside the radio, and it just leaks through and damages the hinge. It will need a recap. I have tried it briefly at work, and it draws, when you get close to working voltage, it draws quite a lot of current, but it did work, and it doesn't seem to, funnily enough, have any problems with tin whiskers. It's using the AF117 transistors, as most of these radios did. So generally the electronics side, it looks pretty good. So I think what I want to do is I want to strip all the electronics out of it, and then I'm going to try and rejuvenate the case a bit. These Hacker radios, I don't know if you can see get the light, you see these sort of like creases, these sort of stretch marks here. This is because the radio had a foam backing on it when they were made in the workshop, when they were originally out of Hacker. And this foam disintegrates, and unfortunately after a couple of years it all just falls down to the bottom of the radio and just leaves a baggy rexin behind. I'm going to have a go. I have done one of these before and repaired this, but I don't think I haven't got it on video. This is before, I think, before even YouTube was invented actually. So the plan is to try and restore this one. Now what I use, there's various other materials you can use, but I use some pipe insulation. We've got some refrigerant pipe insulation at work that's designed to withstand very high temperatures. And it's quite a thin strip. It's about the thickness of this run here, so one run here would cover all that, and it's probably what, 2.5 mil thick. The only thing it does is it makes the rexin a bit of a stretch now, so I'm going to have a go and see if I can get it to fit. But first of all, what I'll do is I'll start to remove all the electronics from the radio. That's fairly straightforward, as you've seen. Of course, as we're restoring this one, I'm going to remove the hinge as well. So I'm going to remove the back hinge first, and it makes it that little bit easier to work on because you're not sort of constantly fighting with the hinge. Now, as I say, a lot of these radios have had the batteries leak and cause this hinge to rust up. But if you're lucky, you can find one that's actually in pretty good nick. And this was sold as spares and repair. Obviously it's missing a handle. I'll have to try and source. I might have one in my spares box somewhere, but I don't think I have. So I might need to track another Hacker handle down. Let's get the hinge off it. Now it's the classic thing with all these Hacker radios. It's got a number of different manufacturer capacitors in it, and you can see this red capacitor here. I think that's the one that decouples the speaker. Now the one that's coupling the speaker is vitally that you check it to make sure it's not leaky. And if you haven't done that, there's a good way of testing it. Either put a meter across the loudspeaker terminal and check for any high DC. There will be an offset. There will be an initial offset of DC when you switch the radio on, and after about a couple of seconds that should drop back to no more than sort of, well, really nothing. There shouldn't be any DC level there at all. Any DC voltage flowing there is drain on your battery. But when I switched this radio on an external power supply, I could hear quite a large DC thump when it switched on, and the power supply was showing there was quite a significant current passing. And what I did was I just touched the cone of the speaker and turned it back off, and I felt the cone move back out again. So that shows that the decoupling cap on the speaker, the DC blocking cap, is badly leaky, and that will have to be thrown away. It will overheat the output transistor, and it will cause distortion as well, and just to kill the batteries as well. So you need to keep an eye on that. So we're taking these screws off in the corner, and this holds the sort of like the arms of the chassis in. So screws there. Now we need to remove the handle screws. And these are always tight on these. They're like a nylon bushing, so they don't just, you won't be able to just loosen them off and undo them with your fingers. They're like a friction lock, obviously to stop them undoing if you're winding the handle backs and forwards all the time. Okay, right, so the chassis should be more or less free. So now we need to remove the amplifier plug. Let's just give that a wriggle and work it out. And that's free from there. So remove that from the back of around the back of the amplifier. And then make sure you've got all the both the battery clips are free. So there, both all these cables are free there. And we should. Usually a bit of a wriggle. Sometimes what you can do, if it's a bit tight to this left hand hinge here, just bend it in slightly, and it stops it snagging on the way out. Now be careful of the speaker as you come out, remove that. So there's the chassis out, and that makes it a lot easier to work on there, and you can see underneath here the IF board here, and the tuner selection here, and the tuner switch. You can get in there and easily clean the contacts and things, as all the bass and treble controls, tuning the capacitor. Close the tuning capacitor up when you're not working on it, for the simple reason that if you knock it by accident, you won't bend any of the fins and cause shorts on the oscillator or antenna tuner. So that's that section. Now I did also notice on this radio when I was looking at it earlier on that, I don't know if you can see here, but that, I'll get it at the end so you can see that the tuning indicator's slightly bent. You see it's not quite sitting square in the radio, so I'm going to have to do that as well at the same time. So that gets you back down to the chassis with the speaker. Let me just find a nut spinner to undo those with. That's too big, I think. Oh, it's always the one that looks like it's a 2BA. As I mentioned before in the previous video, you never when you're reassembling these, never do them up too tight, and I'll probably reiterate that again when I reassemble it. So we'll remove that top clamp. It might actually be easier to take the amplifier out first, because the nut is right behind the amplifier's heatsink. So let's get this amplifier out. It's a 4BA if you're interested, which I think is equivalent to about 7 or 8, 7 it looks like. Okay, disconnect the speaker wires. Don't just yank them, give them a wriggle because you don't want to rip the speaker terminal off. Oh, that one's well and truly on there. That's obviously never been off before. So you just get a pair of pliers behind there and use it as a lever and just pop them off, hopefully. Maybe not. Okay. So that's the amplifier should come out. And just bear in mind that it's nice to keep these battery labels, and they tend to just sit in there loosely after the glue's all sort of dried up over the years, so keep an eye on that. And what I should have done, which I didn't do, is make a note of the speaker polarity, because it's not clearly marked on these Goodman speakers. I think it is on the Celestion, the latest Celestion speaker. So that's the speaker out. You need to put that obviously somewhere where you're not going to stick a screwdriver through or put something down on it when you're not looking and punch a hole in the speaker. So that's down to the basic chassis. Now we've got the battery stays here. These are just the brackets that hold the speaker. The battery's in position. The PP9's in position. We just remove those. Like that. Those off. Right, now you can start stripping the front grill apart. Now they're beautifully made, these radios, and they're very straightforward to disassemble. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 screws, and I think that's it. So if we remove these screws, one of the washers from the amplifier's fallen out. I don't undo the screws totally, I just tend to loosen those off. You tend to find that the side cabinet, this cabinet won't need any. This rexin isn't padded. This is just glued solidly to the wood, so we don't need to do any major restoration on there apart from clean it really, and probably brush out any loose dust inside. So loosen these screws off till they're sticking out 4 or 5 mils, so they're clear of the front panel, so the thread's out of the front panel. And feel the cabinet with the front panel loose now. And there's the front panel off. Put that somewhere safe. Okay, so we're down to the front panel now. Now, what we need to do is get this apart. Now we've got this white fine sort of edging strip on here. We need to get that off, and you need to remember also that when you put it back on, that the join is on the bottom. There's a join here, and don't put it on the top, because it'll always niggle you. Every time you look at it, you'll think, oh, you'll see the join on the top of the radio. So let's get the Hacker emblem off next. You need to be a bit careful with this, because you can break these. They're quite fragile. And they're on these sort of I don't explain them. I'm sure they've got a name for them. But these clips here, that basically what they do is, as you push them down, they slide down, and when you try and move them up, they ride up on a like a ledge and dig in, and they act like a friction lock. And they're great for putting on, but they're real buggers to get off without damaging anything. So what you want to try and do is get those off without damaging the Hacker label itself. So what I'm going to try and do is work these off with maybe, shouldn't really use these, but these are an old pair of cutters, and just so you can get the cutter underneath it. There you go. Just release the spring, and then the clip comes off, and that will release the Hacker emblem, like so. That's good. Right, the next thing I want to do is I need to get this rexin off. The lovely thing about rexin is, unless it's been sort of dropped or skidded along a bit of concrete, it's almost indestructible. Even considering this, probably this radio is what, sort of coming on 50 years old. You can, when I'm putting it back onto the wood after I put the padding in underneath, you can really stretch this stuff and it won't break. But what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the grill. And the grill is held in with these 4 clips, 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's just tacked in with little nails here. So let's get the screwdriver on there, just pop those out and save the nails because we can reuse those, that's not a problem. That goes in the pile of bits. And it's so unusual actually, well it's not that unusual, but it's quite unusual maybe to find a grill that hasn't got some form of dent or ding in it. These type of grills are quite robust. If you look at the grill, it's quite a solid structure, and it would take quite a whack to do that. If you look at things like the Helmsman grill, which is obviously designed to be a rugged radio, it's far more fragile. And I really think that it would have been better with a grill like this, but I think because this is sort of like a steel grill, a Helmsman, if it's obviously going to be used at sea, pretty corroded much quicker. Maybe that's why they did it. Okay, so we just bend the clips around gently so they're standing vertically. Okay, and then that's the grill released. And as you see there, that grill's in really nice nick, so I need to put that somewhere where I'm not going to damage it. And then this is the mesh that sort of stops you seeing the speaker inside, and it's got about 50 years of bits of food and dirt and dust and bits of flies and, you know, just general mess really. Now I'll probably leave that in position for the time being, and I'm going to probably just brush it down and see if I can get the dust off it and clean that up a bit. But let's start with the getting this rexin off now. So I'm going to start on the corner and just lift that off. Unless I can see another way of, I don't think I could be able to get away with leaving it in position. So it's pretty tough stuff, but just pull it off. What you could try and do actually, just see if you can get under the rexin and run a screwdriver or a knife along the edge. Lift the edge off. Okay. Just working along the edge. It has been tacked, this one, but what I'm going to do is when I reassemble it, I'm going to use a staple gun to hold it in place. And then I'll probably add some glue as well to stop it, make it so it doesn't bag up in one position. It really is tough stuff, this. I mean, you can rip it, don't get me wrong, it's not indestructible, but it is very strong. It's very forgiving. So it shows how good the glue is still. It's still got some stick behind it. Carefully peel that off. Has actually torn the rexin slightly there. The other side, what you can actually do is apply a heat gun to, or hot air dryer, just to soften the glue slightly. It's actually quite warm in the workshop this evening, so I'm hoping this will peel off fairly easily. It's got some good sticks too actually. It's really stuck down hard actually. Okay. You see it's taking parts of the rexin off, but the rexin is stronger and it doesn't give up. Start from this side, I think. That's where dollops of glue have been put actually. Just don't want it to, I don't want it to tear all the way through the rexine, and then I'll have a hole in it, you know, because it will be right on the edge. It will, it could split. Okay, so that's the edge strip off. Now the next bit is to get the rexine off in one piece. So basically that's a case of going around the edge with a scalpel or screwdriver or something like that, something sharp, and just releasing. And what you'll find when you start to get this off, you'll start to find that there's a lot of loose of the old packing inside, and you'll probably see that in a minute. And it's up to you if you wear a mask. If you've got suffer from asthma, which actually I do, it's probably a good idea to wear the mask because it's not particularly nice stuff. I'm just going to be very careful. I haven't got a mask in the workshop, unfortunately. Just taking all the corner edges off. Going down the side now. You shouldn't need pliers or anything like that. You should be able to do it by finger, because there's a chance that if you do it with pliers you're going to rip it. So, but as I say, it has torn very slightly there, but it is very, very versatile stuff. This. Funny enough, if you look on eBay for Roberts radios, like the R200, 300 and 400 with the rexine cover or leatherette cover, whichever you want to call it, I suppose it's the same thing really. Leatherette's just a synthetic leather. You find that most of the cabinets, even though they've probably got a few sort of paint marks on them and scratches and things, they're in pretty good nick actually, in pretty good condition. But if you look at one of the modern Chinese rip-off revivals, Roberts revivals, if you look through some of them, you'll find that they've got big chunks out of them, and it's because they've used a cheap, nasty equivalent to rexine, and they look worse condition than radios that are sort of 10 times the age. You know, I've come across Roberts radios from the sort of 60s that are in really nice nick, and that other Roberts radios have obviously been used in in a kitchen, or maybe someone's used them on a building site, and they just got big chunks of the rexine missing. They look so unsightly. So there's a lot to be said for this material. Okay, right, the final sort of stretch now of getting this cover off. That corner off. That corner's off. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to mark so I know where the alignments are. A mark there and a mark there, and I'm going to put a T on there for top, so I know that when that bit of rexine goes back on there, which way it was on. It should be fairly obvious because there's the hole marks from the where the badge, the emblem, the Hacker emblem is. Okay. I'll have to get some suitable glue for this. Stick it back on. I think I'll get some Yoo-hoo glue, that seems to work the best. Oh, tore a bit there. Okay. Okay, so that's just this little edge here. Now then, what have we got? Oh, we got stapled. I think it's stapled in the corners here as well. I think there's little tacks in the corner. In the corner of the grill, I think it's pinned, I seem to remember. Maybe not. Okay, pull that back. And I think what that is, these little baffle plates here that support the speaker, I think are just tacked on. Mark these, it's not that clear, but pop that off. And the other one. Well, this leaves you with a bit of cloth I was telling you about that's a bit fragile. I'm hoping that we can just work around that and leave that in place. Ah, some staples, as I remember now. So, just get in there and pop the staples out. I'm going to try and, as I say, try and keep this cloth in position if I can. That's one of the staples loose. See, once the grill's in place anyway, the grill basically holds the rexin in place, so it might look a bit daunting trying to get this back in position again, but it's not actually, from what I remember anyway, it wasn't too difficult. Let's try and get this staple out. Yep. Use the little cutters to try and get it out. Okay, I think what I did actually, thinking about it, now I'm thinking about it, I don't think I actually removed this part here. And there's no reason why you should, because I only need to pad out this outer level here, and around here, and this part here. So what I'm going to do, that's the point where I'm going to leave it for this evening, because I haven't got the material with me. But we're at a good stage now. I just need to clean it up and brush up all this dust, and we can start repacking it. Okay, this is the insulation material I was talking about. And you can see it's like a foam strip, very hard wearing, designed to put up temperature and exposure to UV, and just a very hard wearing sort of material. What I was planning on doing is trying some this evening just to see how it fits in. Now, I have used this before and seemed to work pretty well. So I'm just going to try it again, because it was a good 10 years since I last did my last Hacker radio when I repacked it. Now I seem to remember just putting it on like that and just stripping it on and then stretching the material over. So let's just try it, see how we get on. There's no exact science to this really. It's a bit of a sort of suck it and see. So I'm going to put that strip on like that and see how we get on. It will stretch slightly, this stuff, and it is actually in theory slightly too thick for what I want. But what I'll do is we'll have a go. Obviously want to get it as square as possible. We don't want it right to the very edge. Like that. So that will allow me to still stretch the rexin over. Now you straight away you've got that lovely padded feel that you didn't have before. So I'm going to go around the whole radio, or the whole front of the cloth, just make sure I've got a good grip on stuff. This looks like, I don't know what's happened here, but this darker area looks like it's been sort of almost painted. There's nothing to peel off here. So do the same with this side. I will have to buy some glue. I haven't got any glue, but this evening I'm just going to stick this stuff on and see what the sort of it feels like. It's got the nice sort of spring to it and things. So that's good. You could actually stick a couple of staples in there to hold it in place. And it's got the nice feel around the edge. They've still got the gap. You know, it hasn't come right up to the edge where the grill was, so the grill will still fit in the recess in theory correctly. Try and match this up as best I can, so we need to get this end square. There. It's quite pliable, this stuff. It's quite stretchy, so it will actually sort of, you can manipulate it into the shape you want. It hasn't quite filled in that gap there, but I'm not too worried about that for the moment, because what I will do is I'll just fill that in with a little piece afterwards. Funny enough, I did this on one of the last radios I did, and you can actually feel, if there's a gap, you can actually feel the gap through the packing. So there you go, that's filled that in, that's absolutely fine. So that's good. And really, I mean, the only reason I'm doing this, the padding doesn't really bother me so much, but it does get rid of the bagginess in the rexin, which always looks awful. Botox for the hacker, I suppose. This one needs to be cut down slightly because it's not quite. Perfect. Fits nicely. So there we go. Let's just pull this. What I think I'll do is I'll pull it tight, and what I'm going to do for the time being is probably staple it. Now I've got an industrial stapler, but I'm just going to use this, well, it's not a lightweight staple, but a lighter weight staple, just to sort of set it in position and see what it looks like. So of course, if it's got to get stapled in, which it hasn't, I don't think, or it's jammed. Not going to staple. Okay, so I need to find my industrial stapler, so I've got to move the camera, so I'm going to pause the camera and I'll be back. Okay, so I found the staple gun, so I'm just going to pin it in place, roughly where I want it. Just do the four corners first. I want it held fairly tight so it's not going to be baggy. I need to stretch it so it's nice and evenly spread. baggy mark there, so I just stretch that out here. We've got a bit of a gap here, you see there might need some more rexin filled in here. That's alright there, but this gap here, no, it's not a gap, it's just the way it needs stretching where the material's shrunk. Give it a good stretch. Okay, now you see these baggy parts here. Now this is just the corners here, I need pulling and stretching to the right position, and that's just basically going round. Stretch that one. It actually looks like these rivets are actually, these staples are working quite well. Now let's get rid of that. Let's give this a stretch here. Okay, a little bit of a sort of like a baggy bit here. Just hoping that will pull out of there. Maybe from here. And because it's a bit springy, you can actually push it right down on the bench to compress the foam. That's pretty good there actually, I'm quite pleased with that corner. That corner there needs a bit of stretching still. So the same thing, push it down on the bench, give it a good stretch. Well, that's pretty good. Now what I found last time when I did this is you have these creases here in the corner here. Now it's hardly noticeable actually, but what happens with time, the rexin sort of recovers again, and it's brilliant stuff. It will recover and sort of shrink back. I'll be able to pull that back a bit there. You see that corner there, you can see in the light, it just needs pulling slightly like that. So I'm just going to put another staple in there. I don't even think I'm going to need any glue, to be honest with you. Yeah, let's come out of there. Another one here. Right, you know, that's got the spring back. You can see the sort of springiness and the foam's back. All it needs now, I think, I'm going to put the grill back in. Now the grill will pin it in the edges, in the corners properly. So hopefully that will start to pull the foam in the corners correctly. And then from there, then it needs a damn good clean, because it's sort of got 30 years of muck and stuff in it. Put the grill back in. And the same goes with this. When you re-nail the re-tack the nails in, you need to compress it fully. And you can see there's a few little minor creases there, but it looks miles better. And we could still pull those out a bit further with a few more staples. So there we go. It's starting to come together. Let's put the Hacker emblem back in. And of course all these sort of things are holding the foam in place. I'll dig the clip out in a minute. And what I need to do now is I need to find a hammer, because I haven't got a hammer in the workshop. Just stretch this out a little bit further here. There's another staple in this corner. Just pull that crease out. Let's try and pull this crease out in the bottom corner here. You can see that. It's a similar sort of thing. Just get hold of it, stretch it, stick a staple in, make it a bit better. Not perfect, but it's pretty close on perfect. I'm very pleased with that outcome actually. So what I'll do, I'm going to pause here. I'm going to redo the hammer, tack the grill back into position nice and tightly so it's compressing it down, and we'll start to assemble it back into the cabinet.